Greetings fellow Mist Wanderers, my name is Steve Morgan and this is DM of the Mists, covering all things Curse of Strahd and Ravenloft. And I know what you're thinking, dragons in the domains of dread and this part of the multiverse? Yes. I know that dragons don't feel very Ravenlofty. They don't really fit the theme of horror. They do fit the theme of fantasy, and Dungeons & Dragons has the word dragons in it. It's 50% of the title. But I understand why people might not think dragons fit well in Ravenloft, and that's why there aren't many dragons in Ravenloft, but there aren't zero. And this video is going to talk about the ones that are in Barovia and Curse of Strahd, in the wider Ravenloft setting, and some ideas of if you want to add some dragons to some other domains of dread, here are some places where you could put some. Let's start with the ones in Curse of Strahd. There are, to my knowledge, I say to my knowledge, I'm going to be kicking myself now if I've actually forgotten some, but to my knowledge there are 2 types. There's more than 2 dragons, as I'll get to in a minute, but there's 2 types, 3 technically, if you want to count one that's dead. The ones I'm thinking of are Van Richten's Tower, the one that's on the door. If you don't do the door puzzle properly, a dragon appears. It's a young blue dragon. There are 4 red dragon wyrmling statues in the entrance of Castle Ravenloft. And one thing I really like about them is they don't trigger when people enter. They trigger and attack people when they leave, which is great. If the PCs very bravely, boldly go into Castle Ravenloft, realise that they are outmatched, and then try and run out the front door, and these 4 red dragon wyrmlings give them a hard time as well. There is the long dead dragon Argynvost, the owner, the leader of the Knights of Argynvostholt, or the Order of the Silver Dragon who live at Argynvostholt. He is a long dead silver dragon. And there are some people who, and I considered this in my game, have him appear as a Dracolich, or I was considering the Ghost Dragon stat block from the Fizban's Treasury of Dragons book. Or you hear cool stories of people who use that dark gift in the Amber Temple where you can resurrect somebody who's been long dead and resurrect Argynvost, and then they've got a dragon as an ally to take down Strahd, and that's really cool. And I envy any DM who's had players do that in their campaigns, although kind of also feel sorry for DMs in those campaigns because they've now got to worry about a dragon. You know, how are they going to balance an encounter with this dragon ally as well? There is an old Ravenloft board game. I don't know much about it, other than hearing the odd thing about it, but there is apparently a Dracolich in the crypts of Castle Ravenloft. So if you're considering a Curse of Strahd game that maybe goes beyond level 10, you see some DMs who, even though Curse of Strahd is meant to end at level 10 for the PCs, you see some DMs who take it up to maybe level 15, maybe even level 20. Drop in Gravestorm, amazing name, the Dracolich that's kind of Strahd's pet Dracolich. I saw a cool homebrew edition for Selenka Pass. This is from Lunch Break Heroes. I'm sure a lot of people researching or running Curse of Strahd are familiar with Lunch Break Heroes. There's a cool thing they add to Selenka Pass where there is a statue of a dragon, and it does nothing on their way to the Amber Temple, but on their way back from the Amber Temple, if any of them are taking dark gifts, the statue comes alive as a young white dragon and keeps attacking only PCs that took a dark gift, ignoring all of the PCs, even if those PCs attack them to help their friends, and will basically fight until defeated. And I just think that's a really cool idea. I can't remember the full lore, but I think it's something to do with a sort of protection that was left in place by the Order of the Silver Dragons and by Argynvostholt before they perished. For people interested in that, I'll leave a link in the description to the video that talks about it. And then if you read their guides, I think the main guide is called Raising the Stakes. I love the pun there. Then you get more information about it from there as well. Those are the Curse of Strahd dragons that I'm aware of, raw or homebrew. If you know of any more, let me know. I don't know Dragna Carta Reloaded or re-reloaded super well. There might be some other homebrew people have done where they've added dragons, and it's been really cool. Let's talk about wider domains of dread outside of Curse of Strahd and outside of Barovia. So there is another Darklord, as of 5th edition, who is a dragon, and that is Sarthak, the Darklord of Niranjan, which is a small island that has a monastery where the Darklord is trying to encourage people to give away all their worldly goods. Poses as a preacher, but is secretly a dragon trying to expand their treasure hoard. Very clever way to go about it. I'll have your worldly goods, please. And I actually ran Niranjan as part of my campaign. My players got sort of waylaid from the Sea of Sorrows into Niranjan, and it was a few sessions thing. I used the information that PhD&D Dr. Bowers uses. For those of you familiar with his brilliant videos, he did a version of Niranjan where it was a Candlekeep Mysteries adventure, and I basically ran it how he suggested it, plus a few tweaks. I think I asked for advice on the Ravenloft subreddit about how to change some of the monsters to make it more Ravenloft friendly, and I'll share links to both his video and that Reddit post in the description, and that went really well as well. And that was my first time my players ever fought a dragon, because they missed the ones in Curse of Strahd. We did Lost Mine of Fandelver before that, which I was going to say spoiler alert, but there's a picture of a dragon on the cover. They missed the dragon in that as well, and it was their first time finally fighting a dragon in Dungeons & Dragons. There is Ebb, the dragon in Darkon, who is the lieutenant / steed of Hazlan Rex, the famous lich, who in 5th edition is more complicated. He's not the Darklord. There are other people aspiring to be the Darklord, but I'm having it that he returns and then is the Darklord again in my game. And in my game, I'm going to have her sort of before they approach Darklord Rex and the transformation happens and Hazlan Rex reappears. She will fight my players, and she is a black shadow dragon. She also has really cool artwork from Ravenloft Mist Hunters if you want her artwork. I believe it's from an artist called Max Dunbar, by the way. The Shadowlands, specifically an area of the Shadowlands called Nidala. Now, the Shadowlands is kind of split into 3 areas, and I think in the Old Lore it had 3 Dark Lords, but in 5th edition it has only 1 Dark Lord. The other 2 Dark Lords are still mentioned. So the Dark Lords are a sentient sword, a sort of Dark Paladin Knight, and a Necromancer. And this is the Dark Paladin Knight. I believe in her lore, her name is Eleanor Faithhold, and as part of her thing, she talks about Banemaw, a evil dragon who's terrorizing the area, but it turns out that that's just a cover. Banemaw doesn't exist, and she's just using it as a cover to sort of destroy places, basically, is my understanding of it. I am going to run the Shadowlands soon, but I'm not as well versed in the lore as I could or should be. But I did see somewhere, and I'm getting really frustrated because I'm sure I read this and didn't make this up, and I can't find the source now, where somebody said, wouldn't it be cool if actually the dragon that she invented does actually end up being real? And I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that it would be a green dragon as well. I don't know if I've made that up or not. But I think it's quite cool that she basically makes up this dragon, but she almost wills it into existence, and then the dragon does actually become real, and a dragon that the players can then actually fight, maybe alongside her. It could be quite cool, make it challenging. Came across a cool one called, and forgive me for my botched pronunciation, Grezanletyr, something like that. There's information about them on Mistipedia. They were in Hazlan and had a big fight with Hazlik, and then went to Forlorn. Now I've just finished running Forlorn and didn't think to include this dragon, which is a shame, but I am running Hazlan soon, so I might change the lore to fit my game where it arrives into Hazlan, and then maybe my players have to fight it as a favour to Hazlik to get on Hazlik's good side, to get closer to Hazlik and be able to learn his secrets and maybe make it easier to defeat him. They defeat this dragon. If you want to see more, there are more in the Ravenloft setting. There is a dragon category on Mistipedia. Feel free to have a look on that. It includes pretty much all the ones I mentioned plus some more. Some of them are from official sources, some of them are from fan canon, I think, and some of the like net zines that are out there, and go to town basically. If you know of any others, or I've missed someone who's really cool, please let me know in the comments. And it's a sort of like bonus thing. What you could do is add dragons to domains. Even if you don't want it to be a named dragon, if you will, you could add dragons to different domains. And I thought of 2 that could work well, or 1 that could work well, and 1 that's kind of a bit of a wild card. But the one where it can work well is the Sea of Sorrows. So the Fizban's book I mentioned earlier has a sea serpent stat block, and when I ran the Sea of Sorrows, I included a young sea serpent as a random encounter. And then I recently got Tome of Beasts, and I did a video with a bunch of monsters that I felt fit really well in Ravenloft campaigns and various domains of dread. And I didn't include this one in the list because it's a dragon. I didn't really include any of the dragon stat blocks, but they've got sea dragons, so that makes loads of sense. And this one's a bit of an odd one. I'm running Hazlan soon, as I've already mentioned, and in Tome of Beasts, which I just mentioned, there are void dragons. Now again, I can't find the source for this, but I'm sure I was reading something, or maybe it was inspired actually by the maps I'm going to use for Hazlik's Tower. I found a room where there's all this kind of voidy goo everywhere, and I'm going to have some void dragons, maybe some just wormlings, and maybe like 1 or 2 young dragons attack from there. It looks like it'll be a lot of fun. But I remember there being somewhere in Hazlan, and And I did re-research it before this video, because I was researching Hazlan a while back, and so it's not fresh in my memory, but I'm sure I read somewhere, and this is the 5th edition version, where there's somewhere where you can access the void, unless I just kind of made it up as my headcanon. So if anyone knows what I'm talking about, please let me know in the comments, because that would be much appreciated. But maybe I might just add it now and say there's somewhere where you can access the void, and it's in Hazak's tower because he's studying it, and there's some void dragons that pop up, say hello, and do some cone or line attacks or whatever breath attacks they do. In fact, I'm going to look it up. I've got a computer in front of me, I could just look at this stuff up. Who knew it would be that simple? And void dragons loading right now can do... well, they do 2 types of breath. One of them does bludgeoning damage, and one of them does radiant damage. That's interesting. I would have said force or necrotic damage, but radiant damage sounds pretty cool. And that's it for this one. I've got hopefully a Tovag video coming up. It's quite nice to do some shorter videos. So this video and another Curse of Strahd video I've done quite short. I did 2 massive videos recently on my Rudolf van Richten sort of NPC analysis, and then Forlorn Part 2 talking about Castle Tristan Noir from Castles Forlorn. They were like an hour-ish each, and so it's nice to do some shorter videos. Well, I just say, here's some info, have fun. But I'm hoping to do Tovag soon. So as I record this, my players will be going to Tovag soon. And then I'm hoping that'll be one of my next Ravenloft videos. That's Kaz's Domain of Dread, Kaz, Vecna's rival. So if you're interested in that, please subscribe, please hit the bell icon or whatever they say, and hopefully you'll see that when it comes out. And we'll leave it there. Thank you, Miss Wanderers.